Do you remember when you first came into the shop? You were all like, I wonder how you use this machine and also this machine. Well, here's how you do it. This is a jointer, and this is another jointer. Put simply, a jointer makes lumber flat. It's the first tool you use to make rough lumber into beautiful, workable pieces, often referred to as dressed or surfaced lumber. And regardless of your specific board's original condition, whether it's bowed or warped or cupped, it should come out this end of the machine super flat. The jointer has two jobs that it's really good at, making one face of a board flat and making one edge of a board flat, but it does struggle making the end of a board flat. That's super dangerous, so we're never gonna do that. That and making the end of a board flat is kind of the miter saw's job, so go over there to do that. Under here, we've got this big spinny thing of death. Technically speaking, it's called a cutter head. Either way, to you and I, it's 1, 2. It's 2 razor blades spinning around at high speed, so don't touch. The front part of the jointer is called the infeed table. This is where it's where you feed the material into the machine. This back part of the jointer, this is called the outfeed table. It's called the outfeed table because it's the table where the material is fed out of the machine. This is a fence. We put our workpiece against it and it helps make sure the piece doesn't come off the back of the machine while we're using it. The angle of the fence is adjustable, but we keep it at 90 degrees or square to both the infeed and the outfeed table. This little guy, this is the guard. We like the guard. It helps keep us safe from the spinny thing of death, so please don't play with it. And finally, this is our push stick, and it's a really good push stick. This one happens to be named Janice, really long story. And I know, technically it's not part of the machine, but since we have to use it every time we joint a face, I mean, isn't it kind of part of the machine, kind of? And so, how does it work? Well, it's pretty simple really. You take your board from the infeed table, you push it across the big spinning thing of death to the outfeed table, and we're done. Bingo bango, Bob's your uncle. Can I go home now? Are we done? I mean, that's not wrong per se, but it's a little bit more nuanced than that. First off, let's deal with a cupped face. A cupped board is a board whose face isn't flat, which for rough lumber is most of them. You can usually spot the cup in a board by looking across the end of it. This cupped face or concave face has to go down on the jointer. This helps keep the board as stable as possible as you push it across the cutter head. When you place your board on the infeed table, you can take a quick peek to see if you've got everything set up correctly. If there's a gap in the middle of your board, congratulations, you got it right. If there's a gap on either side of the board, well, please try again. When you've pushed your board all the way across the cutter head, and only after you hear the guard close, check the face that you've just jointed. You may find that you have a perfectly smooth, flat face, but more than likely, you'll see some rough stuff left in the middle, and that's okay. In that case, well, just keep jointing. The amount of cup that your board had it when you started will determine how many passes you need to take. Around here with our material, 2 passes will usually get the job done. The other job that a jointer has is to flatten an edge. And in our shop, that's done on our second, smaller jointer. It has all the same bits and works in exactly the same manner as the other one, it's just littler. Since we've already jointed one face, we'll use this already flattened face as a reference face here. That means you have to put the flat face against the fence and keep it registered, which just means against the fence the whole time. With the flat face against the fence, just grab your push stick and wait. With this arrangement, we can't use our favorite push stick since the board is standing on edge. In this case, the best push stick we have are our hands, and so placing our hands correctly is very important. Once that's sorted out, push your board through the cutter head, and only after the guard closes, check the edge that you've just jointed. If there's still rough stuff, well, joint it a second time, and then maybe a third time, and maybe a fourth time. The amount of bow that your board had when you began will determine how many passes you need to take when you're flattening an edge. Around here with our material, that's usually 3 or 4 passes for the edge. The jointer is a big, dangerous power tool, so we need to follow best safety practices while we're using it. Safety glasses should be on your face, not on top of your head. If you have sweet long hair, just like me, well, tie it back. Entanglement risks pose an issue here. So things like jackets, super baggy clothing, strings from your hoodie, bracelets, necklaces, rings, all that stuff, that needs to be dealt with before you use the jointer. Dust collection, super important here as well, so make sure that's turned on before you use the jointer. In addition to all the common safety stuff, the jointer requires that we be extra careful when we're around the big spinny thing of death. When you're jointing a face, you can't just use your hands to push it across the cutter head because, well, we all value having hands. Instead, we have this push stick, so use it. This push stick has a heel on it that registers against the back of a board. Once it's in place, grab both handles and use firm, even pressure as you move it across the cutter head. If your board gets stuck and won't move any further forward while you're jointing a face, do not grab it with your hands and attempt to move it out of the way. Instead, just turn the machine off, wait a minute, and use your push stick to clear it out of the way. When you're jointing an edge, the most important thing is that we have our hands in the correct position. Be sure that your hands are hooked over or around the top edge of the board. If not, they could slide down the face of the board into the big spinny thing of death. Don't ever have your hands in a position where they come in contact with the guard. That means your touchy bits were a bit too low. Do keep pressure down on the table and do keep pressure against the fence. That will help keep your board registered against the fence as we talked about earlier. And if you follow all those tips and tricks and safety guidelines for the jointer, you should end up with one flat face that is square to one flat edge. I know it's tempting, but don't joint the second face. That is the planer's job. And I know you want to joint the second edge. That's the table saw's job. In fact, you know what? At this point, don't do anything else. Just take the win. Celebrate how amazingly smooth and flat the jointer has helped you make your board. Consider that you've created a beautiful square corner where before there was just rough, scraggly slivers waiting to happen. Reflect on how much your board has changed since you first got it. How much your board, sorry, what's that? Oh, my time here's over.